28 miles north of Dallas, Texas, lies the city of Frisco, home of the newly opened National Videogame Museum at the Frisco Discovery Center. Founded by friends John Hardy, Sean Kelly, and Joe Santulli, the museum houses 10,000 square feet of exhibits, rare items, displays, and even a full-blown arcade. As you walk in, you are greeted by a giant playable Pong machine, and along the way, there are plenty of games to try for yourself. The museum is set up into 17 different stages, each one highlighting an important element of video games. Some stages even feature set pieces. One of the more intriguing ones is in the video game Crash of 1983 area.
This little store display, so they kind of recreated what an independent game store would have looked like as the video game market was crashing. It's kind of like a somber moment, I guess, when you look at it. It's sad.
Of course, there's also a more lighthearted one, such as an average boy's room in the 1980s, complete with a small CRT television, duck hunt, and a fake Playboy under the bed. After touring the museum, I met up with Joe Santulli, one of the founders, and asked him how this all came to be.
I was a pack rat when I was a kid. It's always really important for me to start that way because people are like, how did you let this happen to yourself? I was a pack rat when I was a kid. I was collecting baseball cards, comic books, coins, stamps, board games, right? But once video games came out on cartridges, like the 2600, all of a sudden I had something to collect that was fun. So it wasn't comic books and baseball cards that you put in albums and you leave them aside. This was something I could interact with every day, and now I was building my own library. I started in 1991 an organization called Digital Press, and Digital Press was formed to find other people like me and my friend Kevin and build lists because there was no internet in 1991, not for us, and we wanted to know what didn't we have, as we're collecting. So Digital Press reached out to a lot of like-minded people, and we started to have this audience of collectors, and then we started to do books about collecting, and then we started to build these complete lists with rarity guides and such. So that phenomenon sort of brought my partners John Hardy and Sean Kelly into the fold. Those guys were subscribers of mine, and we would write to each other, and we kind of became this little network of people. And we decided in 1999 to try doing this show called Classic Gaming Expo in Las Vegas, where we would bring our collections for the first time and make a little museum on card tables and little standees, right? It actually turned out to be a really cool thing. People were like, well, this is great. It's only once a year, but it would be nice if we could see this more often. So we did that show for a bunch of years. Then we were doing industry events. E3 had invited us to do 2003 as an homage to the 10-year anniversary of E3. So we brought our vintage collection. Now we're a traveling museum. All of a sudden we're doing PAX and Game Developer Conference and Kamikaze and anybody else that wanted to have an exhibit of a collection.
While developing and growing the traveling museum, Santulli worked full-time in the pharmaceutical industry. The pay was good, but it was boring. He wanted to turn his passion of video games into a career. So he decided to quit his full-time job and open a video game store in Clifton, New Jersey.
I'll never forget those people when I told them what I was doing. They're like, what? You're going to start your own video game store? It sounds like a crazy thing for a 40-year-old to do after all this time, but I didn't really care, and I opened that store, Digital Press. I called it Digital Press because I figured, well, there's a little bit of name recognition here. Some people might know what it is, but it's just sort of a continuation of a product.
Since opening in 2005, Digital Press has become one of the most well-known stores in the gaming community, holding monthly meetups known as NAVA, where collectors can hang out, play games, and trade collection pieces.
I always tell the employees there, their orientation is you have to think of this place as it's the Disneyland of game stores. We want it to always be really clean. You want your customers to all walk out happy.
Yeah.
And I think we do a pretty good job with that.
With Santulli concentrating full-time on video games and collecting, the museum continued to tour conventions and trade shows throughout the country. But soon, the three friends concluded they needed a permanent home for their traveling exhibit.
We did a Kickstarter in 2011 where the goal was get our stuff into every possible industry event that we could find and pitch the idea of having a place permanent. We were considering anywhere for a while.
Okay.
I mean, because we had traveled so much, we had collections all over the country, and we could have gone really literally anywhere that had a good space for us. Lo and behold, we're at a show that we never would have gone to if it wasn't for a Kickstarter called DICE. It's also in Las Vegas. It's an executive level industry event, and we were set up in a very little room, much like this one, with our typical arcade games, a couple of important pieces for a museum, and we have this signature 80s living room, which we would do at industry events everywhere. So that 80s living room was the place where we met Randy Pitchford because IGN was bringing people in there to do interviews. This was just a cool backdrop for them. Randy, after his interview, is looking around, he's like, what is this? You guys building a museum? Like, I want to build a museum. I have a little museum in my office. I'm moving to Frisco. I think maybe I have the right spot for you. And that kind of got the ball rolling here in Frisco. So we ended up partnering with him, partnering with the city. This place is great. It's centrally located. We're in a nice facility. The community digs what we're doing.
Meeting the mayor of Frisco only confirmed that they had found the perfect home.
Yeah, Mayor Masso, he kind of astounded me. You expect the mayor to come in, it's like, here we go, we got to take the guy through the thing, and he's just going to say, oh, this is a great job. Instead, the guy gravitates towards this row of computers that we have, and he's asking these questions like, oh, tell me you guys have, an Acorn computer system, because that's what I was running when I was in college, and we'd run, versions of Colossal K's. I'm like, really? This is the mayor of this city? Awesome, right?
Yeah.
Perfect guy, perfect fit for us. Mm-hmm. It's our collections. It's the three of us and our collections. There's a few donated pieces, but when I say that, it's not, now that we're open, we'll see donations come in. But we had accepted to some degree some donations over the years as a traveling museum. And if you look around, you'll see a lot of dev stuff, right? And prototype cartridges. So things that you wouldn't have gotten through retail channels. A lot of that stuff was donated over the years because running Classic Gaming Expo and doing all those industry events, we're in constant contact and hunting down these game developers over the years and telling them, look, this stuff is important whether you think it is or not. I think we have a place for it. There's a place in history for all of that development stuff, which I think you can see here. If you go over to that third-party section, you can see David Crane's Game Boy system development system that he used to design Rescue of Princess Blobette. That's exactly what happened with all of that equipment that's sitting there. So what we ended up doing with 10,000 square feet is presenting you with 17 stories, 17 things that we want you to study, have fun with, interact with, and learn something about, so that when you leave, you can almost say, here are the 17 things I learned today about how sound is important, why online gaming is important, how game developers have given me the option to create games within their games. What does it take to get involved in the gaming business by looking at Randy Pitchford's office, as it looked in Plano.
While the museum is new and finally open to the public, Joe admits that this is only the beginning of their vision. Eventually, they would love to add an archive center, theater room, and a game library, where people could come in and play over 12,000 game titles from every system imaginable.
That's the 1.0 version that you see here. Right. We still have all of those things waiting for a 2.0. So if things go well here, we do plan on expanding even further and being able to someday have that library and archival facility. So what really we wanted is a dedicated 100%, it's video gaming, it's computer gaming, it's handhelds, it's arcade cabinets, we wanted to make sure that all of that, every piece of that culture was all contained within one building. And I think we've done that. And I know that we're the first place that's dedicated to simply video games.
Right. Pretty incredible. It's obviously put a lot of time and money into this place. This isn't like some little traveling exhibit you see at those conventions. This is like an actual museum. They thought out the different stages, the walking layout. I mean, it's an actual legit museum. It's really good. Really takes you through the evolution of video games.
Funding for Gaming Historian is provided in part by supporters on Patreon. Thank you.